Or typical day for me is majority of my classes I teach are phys ed, and they can vary from an aquatics class, a dance class, a volleyball class, a team sport class, an individual class, or individual sport class. And then my other classes that I teach throughout the day are health classes. Um, as far as other fields, we do have to work with or I have to work with the athletic department. As far as they might ask me, we have a scheduling conflict. As far as with a activity and my classes, so we may have to adjust according to that. I also coach, so as far as scheduling, I'm involved with my own scheduling and some of the scheduling and some other athletic events. Probably the biggest area as far as for mine would be science, and we try to relate certain scientific aspects in our phys ed classes. Why I became a physical education teacher? Well, first of all, I like teaching. There's nothing more rewarding than teaching. But as far as the area of what area I wanted to pursue, I always felt physical education, I like to move. I like movement. I didn't think I could sit all day in a classroom, although as I get older that's a little bit easier to do. I enjoy teaching kids and watching them learn something new, and that's probably the most rewarding part in phys ed. You actually get to observe kids learning. Where sometimes in math and sometimes in maybe some other areas you don't get a chance to really observe them gaining the knowledge and being able to show that. So that was very rewarding for me. It certainly works hand in hand with my coaching duties, being a physical education teacher and a coach. Those go hand in hand. As far as my educational background, undergrad degree at Western Michigan University, majored in physical education with a coaching emphasis, and a minor in health education. From there, did the student teaching, or I think they call it intern now. And then I also have a master's degree in exercise science, which I try to incorporate as much as I can in my teaching. My advice to anyone who's interested in going to physical education, in my 20 years as far as being here, our graduation requirement has stayed the same. Unfortunately, in the last 10 years, the state of Michigan has incorporated more opportunities for kids to waive physical education. That being the case, in our district, our phys ed numbers have greatly declined, which means there's less job opportunities, and I don't see that ending. I think with the addition of foreign language being a requirement, there will be even further kids, or more kids, not taking physical education or finding ways to waive out of it for example, right now if you take French 3 or your third year of French, you could use that and waive physical education. Any advanced science, any advanced math, same thing. And the bottom line is a lot of kids don't mind moving, but it's the sweating issue during school that they're having a hard time with. So it's easier for them to waive the class, maybe take a seminar to fill their schedule, and if they want to do anything active, maybe they'll do it after school. Unfortunately, that doesn't do us a lot of good, but even though we try to enforce the idea, physical education isn't just activity, it's education. But unfortunately, I think the powers that be and even the general perception of the public is that physical education is just activity. And if that's all it is, then my kid can do activity on their own. They don't necessarily have to be in school. We recognize the fact that kids would rather be moving in gym class rather than listening to us lecture about components of physical education. But somehow you got to sneak that in and let them know that they are being educated, and there is a right way and there is a wrong way to exercise. And probably the most important thing is people that generally are inactive, they usually raise inactive kids, and they're less likely to go out and play with their kids because they don't know how. And that's really sad that might be the trend of our future. What I find most rewarding, I think the times when we'll teach something in class to students that maybe have never done it before or weren't very good at it, and they get better or technically maybe master the skill, and then will come up to me and say, you know what I did this weekend? I did that game, or whatever that may be. Tennis is probably a good example. I played tennis with my dad for the first time ever, or we went in the backyard and threw the football around, or I actually watched a particular activity and I knew exactly what was going on, and I've never been able to do that. The effective learning part, that's really the essence of what you're really trying to do. At least I feel, not test them during class, it's what they take out of the class. Testing and standards. The standards that we have to use are the ones put out by the state of Michigan. They have standards for physical education that need to be taught, and those are also in line with the national benchmarks. There are 8 areas that we have to, that they want us to incorporate into our classes. As far as testing, there's always paper and pencil tests. There are always skills tests and performance observation tests. We try to incorporate some commonality with some of our different classes right now. Probably the biggest one is our PACER test that we use, and we also use a sit-up and push-up test. And we use that more in a triathlon type scoring, that you get so many points for each sit-up, for each push-up, and it's something that we work on throughout the whole semester. It's not here we go, this is what we're going to do today. It's something we work on 2 or 3 times a week and then test them at the end, and it's a very small portion of their overall grade. But most of the skills testing that we do and the written test will end up being part of their grade. What do I expect from my students? Well, basically just that. I expect them to be students. That when they walk in here, that the idea that they're here to learn and they're here to try and show effort and work together. That's really kind of the essence of being a student, just trying to be better at what they're doing, and understand that they're in a teaching environment. They're not in their backyard. They're not at some recreation center. And for some kids that's kind of tough, because they look at a gymnasium no different than they look at the YMCA, where they're just doing whatever they want to do. So that's probably the biggest thing. I think probably the biggest area we could improve on is education of the public and promotion. It's right now the public perception is physical education, kids just running around, then they're getting their exercise. And I know some people are probably not that naive, but a lot of times they just look back on what it was like when they were in physical education classes and their experiences, and that's generally how we get lumped into. And I think the state, unfortunately, the state of Michigan is following the same path as that. I think my worst fear is seeing the more of the trickle-down effect, where they will actually go to maybe 8th grade or 7th graders and say, you know what, if you can probably waive out of phys ed as well. Unfortunately, we're not following maybe the state of Illinois, where they demand or they require all kids K through 12 to take physical education every day. So I think probably the biggest area we can improve on is maybe stop the decline of physical education offered to our students. Until that happens, it's pretty hard to start to keep your program going when your numbers are dwindling. The only other thing I could say is maybe offer activities that kids don't normally get a chance to do outside of the school.